Hi, if you've seen this unit before, it's because you watched part 1 of this series about rebuilding a NuTone Model 2500 stereo receiver. And today something good happened. Parts showed up. Pink bags always mean parts. So let's take a quick look at what came in for this unit. Go ahead and cut this open. Dump these out. And this bag full of parts is entirely for this unit. There isn't anything extra in here at all. So what do we have? Well, let's see. We've got some miniature lamps for the dial lamps. We've got some large capacitors for the power supply. Put those over there. Some more capacitors for power supplies. We've got some Zener diodes. Some more electrolytic capacitors. More capacitors, lots of capacitors in a unit like this. These are old school capacitors. You might be able to see these are axial, which means they're like the axle of a car. The leads come out of either end of the body of the capacitor, as compared to these. These are radial capacitors where both leads come out of the bottom. Older designs like this use a lot of axial capacitors. We're going to use a few radial capacitors when we rebuild the multi-section cans in the power supply caps. So these will fit in better, and I'll show you how to do that. So we have, oops, these go over here. More capacitors, more Zener diodes, more capacitors. Some axial capacitors for power supplies. We have some big 2-watt resistors. Here's another value of 2-watt resistors. Some more Zener diodes. More axial caps for the power supply. Some big old-fashioned Sprague Atom radio caps. I like these because they're kind of old school in their look, and Sprague's been making capacitors since the beginning of time, I think. And atoms have been around for a long time. Some more resistors, some more capacitors. These are all old school values also. That's why we had to order them. For instance, this is 50 microfarad at 50 volts. Let's see what else we have here. If this was a modern axial cap, it would be 47 at 50. Here are some 220s. That's not that unusual of a value. Here are some 100s, same value as modern ones. Some 10s, some 50s. These are old school values. If these were modern, again, they'd be 47s. Here are some 15s at 50. No 15 microfarad caps made now are for modern radial caps, not available any longer, or maybe they never were. So if this were a modern capacitor, you would have to go with like a 22 or something like that. I like to stick with original values whenever possible. That's why we ordered all of these. So we have a whole bunch of stuff, and here we have some big 1000 ohm 5-watt resistors. These go in the power supply also. All of these are much higher quality than what the unit would have had when they were brand new. Difference in cost between high quality parts and average quality parts are pennies. So it doesn't make any sense to, if you're going to order stuff, to order lower grade parts. You might as well order better quality parts than what it had when it was new. So let me show you what I'm going to work on first. So the very first thing to do on a unit like this, the very first thing I'll be rebuilding is this board that's mounted vertically in the center of the chassis. This is the power supply for the entire receiver. You have a multi-section can capacitor here. There are 2 large capacitors down here, the orange ones, and these large black ones, even though they look a lot like the multi-section can capacitors, these are actually a single value capacitor, and we'll be replacing those also. This is one of the more difficult boards to get to because you have all of these wires soldered onto it that interconnect it to all the other boards in the receiver, and I have to take this board out of the chassis and sort of manipulate it around, without snapping off the wires and creating a lot of problems. So this will be tomorrow, I'm pretty sure, and we'll get the power supply rebuilt first, and then we'll reinstall it in the chassis. We'll sort of temporarily close all this back up, make sure it's hooked up correctly, and then test it again to see where we are with what does and doesn't work before we move on to the other boards. I think the power supply is in really bad shape, and that's why we have to do that first. So that'll be part 3, so keep a lookout. It'll be coming shortly. See you on the next video.